Hello there and welcome to Namident Academy. Today we are going to discuss about some tips that will help avoid text rejection of manuscripts. You have spent a lot of time and effort to do your research. You have searched and write your manuscript, and then you have also check and selected a journal house to publish your paper, and now you are ready to submit your work for publication. And that I congratulate you for this great effort, for the step you've reached in this level. In this stage of submission of your manuscript, it is being said that about 30 to 45% of manuscripts submitted to most journals are rejected at the desk level, even some before even it reach the editor's desk, and for some after the editor has viewed their manuscript, it gets rejected, and that it does not proceed to the sending it to the reviewers. And so this is a big problem that is small mistakes and small negligence cause these kind of rejections, and that in this video I will attempt to give a suggestion on how to prevent this kind of rejection. The first tip is I will suggest that you update your citation and reference list. Probably it took you 4 months, or for some almost a year, to make a research and to write a manuscript. And the process of writing the manuscript, you are busy writing it. In this period, some papers might have been published related to this your topic or your area that you are trying to publish. So after you finish everything, try as much as possible to revisit the literature citation by doing a brief literature research to find out how many papers have been published within the time you finish your literature review till the time before you submit your work. And that many editors do want you to make a reference with a current work published within those periods so that your work can be considered as current. And that lack of current citation within 1 year, 6 months of their publication to your submission of the work can lead to your manuscript being rejected at the level of editor's desk. So what I recommend from you is that before you submit, try to make a brief literature review and add at least 5 to 6 citations which are relevant to your work, and that might need you to edit some part of your introduction or methodology or discussion just to make your manuscript current. The second aspect, or the second reason for this rejection, is lack of novelty. If you are planning to submit your manuscript in high citation index or science citation index or high impact factor journals, then in that place, innovation is very important, and novelty is very important. The impact of your work is very important. But if you are planning to submit your paper in the other indices, which they don't have impact factor, and others that your paper is a form of repetition of work done by somebody and you are building it up, or something that you don't have immediate impact, then there's no problem. But if you are aiming at high citation impact factor journals, then you have to clearly explain what distinct your manuscript inside. So when you finish your work here, I like you to go back and read your manuscript and try to figure out, is it clear from my discussion, from my abstract, from my conclusion, that single or two or three things that I've discussed in this paper that have impact of the paper, or the impact of this research I conducted. If yes, then you are on the right path. If no, then you need to revise. At times, finding this kind of thing on your own is not easy. So you can give it to your colleague who is not familiar with your research but in the same field, and ask him that, can you pinpoint clear message that your manuscript is addressing about the impact, about the novelty, or the innovation in the area of the experimental or methodology of finding. If he say yes or no, accordingly, you will edit your paper before submitting it to the journal. The third thing aspect is lack of suitability of a manuscript to a journal or a current call for paper. Your manuscript can be an excellent in that field, but if the editorial calendar of that journal doesn't tally with your work, they are not going to accept it, and it got rejection. And also the scope. A lot of us researchers don't take time to read about the manuscript, about the journal's editors, or the journal editorial calendar and others, and that is a problem. And if you have not seen my video on how to choose a journal and other type of journals that we have, please, you can check up there or in the link below, and you'll find it. So clearly, if your manuscript doesn't fall in the scope of the current editorial calendar, they are not going to accept it. So check very well before you submit your manuscript. The fourth aspect of why manuscripts get rejected at the desk is a contradiction in the major part of the manuscript or discussion. So if you have not clearly explained yourself well, and there are a kind of ambiguity in your work where it seems there are some contradiction from your statement, something you explain in the discussion, and what we see in the results, or what you discuss in the results or methodology doesn't tally with what is in the conclusion or discussion, and that there's kind of a contradiction in the same manuscript, it lead to rejection, and that you should be able to cross-check this. And also an important aspect is to discuss with your co-authors, if you are co-authoring the work with others, to check it, or give it to your colleague to discuss, and for him to see if he can see any form of contradiction within the manuscript. The fifth aspect of reasons why manuscripts get rejected is typo mistakes, grammatical error, and other form of language related errors. And these are clearly seen that you didn't take time to check or to proofread your work. And the editor or the secretary to the office of editor clearly see this, and that it gives a very bad impression. If the language has a problem, then they presume that the paper was not rigorously conducted or written, and it lead to your manuscript being rejected. So try as much as possible to correct all typographical mistake and grammatical mistake. Proofread your work more than once. And also, if you are co-authoring with other colleagues, let them also proofread the work clearly and make all correction. And with the aspect of English that we use to write our manuscripts, as you know, the writing, there is an American English kind of spellings and writing, and the Great Britain English kind of writing. So if you are using the Great Britain or the United Kingdom's English language in your writing, in the manuscript, strict to that. And if you are using the American way, strict to that. Do not conflict it, and that it will bring a lot of spelling mistakes and others, and that will lead your paper to be rejected. And in this one also, you can get a colleague or a friend who is not an expert in that your field for him to proofread it. Here, that person is going to read the language, correct the language and topographical mistakes and the grammar. This person, suppose that you are a geophysicist and you have written a paper, you can get somebody in history to read the work. Okay, it's gonna be difficult for him, but you tell him, don't mind anything, any technicality, just concentrate on the grammar, on the language aspect, and make sure that you correct and suggest every language mistake you find it. And that can help you very well. And again, you ask him, how do you understand the work from the perspective of you being somebody not in the field? This helps a lot, especially if you are writing interdisciplinary paper that people from related fields can utilize and understand your work. If people from related field can uh, understand your work, it greatly impact the after publication of your work. But if you are typically writing to your own audience of your own field of uh, technical field, then you don't need to concentrate much on people understanding the work from outside, but you make sure that a person from outside who concentrate on the language is able to read and proofread your work and give suggestion, and make sure that you make all the corrections as far as the content of the information is intact. The sixth aspect is the unclear message on the technicalities of the paper. At times, researchers use very long sentences that before you end the sentence, you forget what is in the beginning of the sentence. So I encourage you to use simple sentences, and if possible, add the jargon of the field inside, because that's it. It's a technical paper. It's not just a common AC. And again, also try as much as possible to explain all concepts clearly. Do not imagine that people know it, because it is a funny way that people think that the basics everybody know, and then the editor will reject those papers based on ambiguity inside the paper, that the science behind the field is not really explained in the paper. To help you with this, you can get a person, an expert in that your field that you are writing the paper for him, who has not been part of your work, to have an independent sanity brain to read your paper and recommend all the ambiguity in the science and the lack of understanding, lack of clear message in the science to you, so that you can sit and correct those things. This will help you escape the death rejection. The seventh aspect of tips to get your manuscript escape the rejection at the desk is the cover letter. A lot of researchers don't take time to write a good cover letter to the editor, and that they just submit the work thinking that the editor can't understand it from their work. Remember, editors or reviewers or those co-editor, chief editors, and others are also researchers like us. They have their commitment to their office, to their field, and that they are working in research centers. They are busy in their life every day, and they only use the free time they have to do the service of editorial service. So you have to help them by explaining yourself clearly in the cover letter. In the cover letter states the title of your manuscript, and when it comes to the title of the manuscript, I encourage you to use a marketing strategy to attract readers to your manuscript through the title. And that I make a video before. I will link it, that how to make your manuscript being accepted in high impact journals. I talk about the aspect of the title. So in the cover letter, explain clearly why you are submitting your work to that journal. Explain how compatible your work is to the journal. If possible, try to identify one or two or three work related to your paper that has been published by the journal. And also, if the research you are reporting has been funded by a funding body, state the funding body there. It also have value to your work. And again, if the work is part of a project, you clearly explain and state that this is part of this project funded by this body. And for as we know, more than half of research are being conducted as part of studies of a graduate student, either PhD or master's. If this work is part of a master's or PhD work, clearly explain that is part of this. And don't forget to clearly and give it a paragraph to explain the importance of this work to this field you are in. What innovation are you bringing through this paper? Is there any novelty inside this work? What are you bringing new that has not been known in this field? Or you are bringing innovation, you are changing some aspect, and what is the impact that you believe that this your work will have in this field? If you clearly take advantage of the cover letter to explain yourself, when the editor read your cover letter, he will fall in love or have an interest in your manuscript. And that when going through your manuscript, even if he finds some aspect of petty mistake, he can still let the paper pass through reviewers so that you will make those petty correction do after review. So that's how important cover letter is, and do not underestimate the power of cover letter to to the editor. It escapes the rejection on the desk. It should land on the right on the right reviewer. And most journal request from you, the author, to suggest 3 or 4 or 2 reviewers. And I've seen some colleagues who are trying to put the name of their friends inside and other people there, which sometimes seems unethical in the science of and some he and his wife are colleagues, and they put the name of the wife there, and or the brother there, or the friend there, or the lab mate there, and these are questionable. But what I suggest you do is, when you were writing your paper or manuscript, clearly you've seen that the work of some people have impacted your work, and that you have cited some people more often. If these people are still alive, if you do a research of them on those social media for researchers, and you find them they are still alive and kicking, then you can recommend them for as reviewers, and probably they will be happy to review your work, knowing that they have get impact on your work, particularly if what you are discussing is in line with their work. For example, if somebody work and you are building on that work, or other people, you try to put their name as recommendation for reviewer. But try avoiding people that your work contradict their work. For example, if in most of research field we have 2 contradicting, or 3, mostly it's 2 contradicting theories that people are holding high extreme on them. So if you are supporting, let's say, A theory, probably you in your paper have attacked the B, saying for the because of the limiting factor in this of B, we support this, and our results also support this. If that is the case, try as much as possible not prolong argument for people to take you down during the review, because when you pick those kind of papers that their results are contradicting your own, or their field view are contradicting your own, they are going to find a lot of problem in your work, and that your revision of the review will be very tedious and very long. So this comes to the end of our discussion on the tips to avoid just rejection. In our future videos in this series, we are going to tackle how to handle review, how to respond, or if you are rejected, how to handle rejection, and if you are giving major review, how to handle major review in good faith. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I encourage you to subscribe to it. And also I encourage you to share these videos to your colleagues, your students, your friends who are in academics or in research, both in industry or academics. And I hope to see you next time in my future videos. Bye.